Hey everybody, and welcome to KM Reviews. I am Niddleman. This time I'm bringing you the review for Season 1, Episode 6 of Westworld. Just keep in mind there are some minor spoilers in here, so if you've not seen the episode yet, go check it out and then come on back, unless you don't care, in which case, here we go, you have been warned. So in this episode, we take a little break from Dolores' storyline and that guy in the white hat. We don't really see them in this episode, really. Instead, this episode focuses on a few other storylines. One of my favorites being Tandy Newton's character, the robot who comes alive and talking with those doctors. We also see Ed Harris and James Marsden as they're kind of trucking along trying to figuring out this maze still, and we see some different aspect to James Marsden's character, and we also see Anthony Hopkins, a lot more of his dealings with we'll get to Anthony Hopkins here in a second. And Bernard basically trying to uncover this conspiracy that's going on with these rogue robots. So let's go down each of these a little bit, what I liked and what I didn't like, and maybe some theories going forward. And then I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below as well. I want to know your thoughts on this episode. So this episode, just like every episode, I feel like every episode I watch is just the best episode so far. Every episode I get is just better than the last one. They all go into the mythology a little bit more. For example, this one, when Bernard is kind of going into Westworld, he figures out, okay, there was this one rogue robot, but there's also these other 5 that aren't on our radar, really. What's the deal with that? He goes there, he gets threatened by this old guy who's like about to choke him out, and then Anthony Hopkins shows up. And we kind of find out Anthony Hopkins has some weird psychology issues in terms of his family, because he basically built a robotic version of his family when he was a kid. And a lot of people have already assumed that little kid roaming around is a young, like, robot version of himself. Turns out that is true, and he actually has his whole family there. And we don't know what happened to them, but it almost seems like he made them to live vicariously through the little robot version of himself and figure out what it would be like to be with his family again. But they haven't gone too in-depth with it. But there's some weird things about that kid. He's lying to him, and he killed this dog, and it's kind of like, I wonder how much he actually is like Anthony Hopkins' character, or if Anthony Hopkins is like, what the fuck is wrong with these robots? We really don't know how alike they are. But Anthony Hopkins obviously has some questions, so he can tell something weird is going on. Now with Bernard and his girl assistant or whatever, they find out all the voices that they've been hearing in their heads with Arnold and stuff is actually this broadcasting system that she finds and locates, and she realizes that, I think her name's Teresa, that chick that Bernard's been sleeping with, had something to do with it, along with somebody else who they think possibly could be Arnold. But that'd be kind of weird because he supposedly died 30 years earlier. So is he dead, or is someone, what's the weird plot with that? But I did think it was cool that it was actually something being broadcast. It's not the robots actually like hearing voices. They're hearing a broadcast that they're picking up in their robotics and stuff. So I found that kind of interesting. And then something happens to her when she's looking up all this broadcasting thing out in some middle of nowhere place. Someone kidnaps her or kills her. We don't really know. So they'll probably reveal that in one of these upcoming episodes. It'll probably be some big twist or something. We don't know. So that's kind of that whole storyline. It's interesting. Bernard kind of questioning everything now. He's really been a loyal guy working there for a long time, and now he's starting to see Anthony Hopkins is not really who he said he was. That Teresa girl's lying to him. There's some weird conspiracy with these robots, and he's just kind of like, what the fuck, Now, another small aspect to this story of this episode was James Marsden and Ed Harris. Again, they're trying to figuring out that maze. Ed Harris thinks he knows James Marsden's character, but he freaking mows down a bunch of guys. He's shooting them all over the place, and Ed Harris is trying to keep him alive because he needs him, and realizes, like, damn, this guy's actually kind of a badass. You can kind of tell he got a little bit of enjoyment out of that, seeing something that he wasn't expecting. We still don't know where this maze goes, though, so we'll see. Next, and it's also clear that Anthony Hopkins knows something about it, and he sees that maze symbol in the table, and I think someone had it in their notebook. It might have been him. He had it in his notebook, but we still don't really know what that symbol means, or if it's a map, or what it is. So we'll probably find that out coming up soon. But again, I love the action in the show, love the acting and all that stuff. But my favorite part of this episode like I mentioned earlier, was Tandy Newton with those two doctors. It was so cool, so much good dialogue. The writing in the show is so good, and I love it. When has the back and forth with the Asian guy, and kind of utilizes his nerdiness and her obvious reading of him, of his kind of shyness with girls, and how she kind of seduces him a little bit to show her around their facility. And we kind of go along the journey with her, kind of, again, finding out a little bit more of the different layers of how they put this Westworld together, about how they're putting the people together, and how they program the robots. That was kind of interesting. The first time we really saw that, we know that they're programmed with their personalities and stuff, but now we see how it kind of works on this little tablet. They have like, whatever it is, like a bunch of different personality traits that they can raise or lower. And at one point, she's in her dress, and the other doctor comes in, and he's like, what the hell? And she threatens him with a knife. Now, we still don't really know if the robots are capable of killing yet. We've seen lots of choking and hitting and all that sort of stuff, but we've never actually seen a robot kill somebody yet, and we don't actually know their capability of that. So it'll be really interesting to see a robot finally kill somebody, because, again, she's threatening him with the knife. He's thinking, like, no, I know you can't kill me, but, like, does he really want to take that risk? Because what if she does? She's got a freaking knife to his throat. You know, and again, he is also kind of obviously seduced by her and her nakedness and her big boobs and all that stuff. So she utilizes that. Her character from Westworld, as being this seductive prostitute type of person, does the same thing to them. Basically offers them sex or filling her up or whatever it is those guys want to do to her. She's basically like okay with it as long as they do what she needs, which is adjusting her personality and her profile and stuff as she wants. And so they raise a couple things on her. I think she's going to end up, my theory is that she's going to end up being like the leader of this revolt of all these robots. And this is that first little butterfly of the butterfly effect happening here. They're going to start increasing her smart. She's going to become very intellectual, know what's going on, and it's going to start wearing off, and she's going to end up leading these robots in some sort of crazy revolt, is my guess. But at the same time, I was wondering, and a little issue I had is they seemed kind of threatened by her, like, oh man, what is she going to do? But if they have the ability to adjust all this stuff, why don't they just dumb her down a little bit? Tell someone what's going on. Like, hey, this robot woke up. She's threatening us. She knows what's going on. Let's fucking put her away. Recycle her. Okay, her memories aren't going away. So fucking burn her and throw her in a fucking pit somewhere. You know, she's a fucking robot. So why even risk any of this? Obviously, it's because those guys want to get laid. They probably never had sex before, so they're willing to do whatever it takes to feel up on some boobies. That's what I'm guessing anyways. But overall, guys, I'm going on and on and on. Basically just rehashing stuff you've already seen. Ultimately, I love the acting in the show, love the writing and the dialogue. I love their throwing in of little eggs here and there of developing the story and this whole world of what this thing is. Because they could have just shoehorned it all into like the first episode and it wouldn't be as interesting. So they're layering this thing so well. So again, another great episode. Let me know what you guys think. Also remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, basically everything at Niddleman. And if you want to get more reviews every single week, make sure you subscribe if you can handle it. Go.